All systems go. Clear for takeoff.
What is going on, YouTube? We're back with the Sunday Night Football Showdown breakdown here for a doozy. We got a doozy one here, Hamwich. It's Pittsburgh with playing Vegas here. 42.5 total right now as it's 6. Pittsburgh 2.5-point dogs here. Storyline right now off the top, it looks like Davante Adams still questionable. Is looking like he's on track to play here, but going to be an interesting game. If you guys are new, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Obviously, this show is pre-recorded. Drop a comment down in the comment section as well. What you think that score of that game is going to be, who your favorite captain plays are, just some things in there. We definitely look back at these comments for future giveaways right here on this channel. And again, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers here, 2 for 4 on this channel. How much I'll bring you in. Happy Saturday, man. It's Saturday morning here, Saturday mid-afternoon. College game days on the television, ready to watch some college sports, play some MLB, build some NFL teams for tomorrow's main slate. How we doing, man?
Yeah, no, doing good. It should be some great games of college football. And like Nate said, leave us those scores. I saw some good scores in the comments below. And if you win, got to hit the winner, got to hit the right score. We'll give you a free month over here at SHIPIT Nation. So make sure you're doing that. It's going to be it's the Vegas home opener, Nades, and I can only imagine Sunday night those fans are going to be raucous. I wouldn't go anywhere near a stadium, NFL stadium these days, because man, too much commotion going on in those stadiums. But it's going to be a great game. Nevertheless, out in Vegas, should be a low scoring game. I think it's going to play slower, in my opinion. We'll kind of dive into that, but yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to breaking it down as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of in lockstep with you as well. I think this game plays under the total, even sitting at 42.5. I think it's a druggy game. We saw that Steelers game just Thursday night, right? Or Monday night, excuse me, in that 2-game slate where Steelers defense, you didn't have the Steelers defense. It was pretty hard to win $1 million, and everybody was pretty condensed there. So we'll talk about that. Steelers coming off a short week there, playing Monday, now turning back around, playing Sunday night here. Obviously, they're not playing early Sunday, so they have a little bit extra time there, but traveling out to Vegas there to take on the Raiders here are at home. So definitely interesting. Like I said, 22.5 implied team total right now for Vegas as it sits at home, sitting right around 20.3 for the Steelers heading into Vegas here. Let's talk captains like we always do to start the show, and then we'll talk some flex plays, talk a little game theory, go through it, and then we'll get on out of here. Keep this video hopefully around 30 minutes for you guys, so when you do come back and watch it Sunday afternoon, gives you enough time to build your lineups and upload that CSV there for the Sunday night and see if you can win $500,000 here. Hamwich, I'll kick it over to you first. I know you got some interest up at the top here. Davante Adams, obviously 17.4. Interest, pretty high price point there, but he's been the storyline of this Las Vegas offense all season long. Target monster. We know what he can do. Got Josh Jacobs right behind him, then the quarterbacks. You got some cheaper guys down here, right? George Pickens stands out to me for sure. I'll hit on him. And then you got the split there. Basically, it's about a 53-47 split, pretty close to 50-50 split there in that backfield between Pittsburgh with Warren and Najee. So hit on any interest you have up here at the captain position. Where are you going?
Yeah, my favorite captain is going to be Davante Adams for these Raiders. I mean, obviously he's going to have to play, and I think he is. Everything that I've seen is indicating that he's going to play, that he's fine after leaving the game against Buffalo last week. But you alluded to it. He is just a target hog, and I actually like the fact that Jacoby Myers is scheduled to play as well. It brings another NFL caliber receiver back into the fold where you can't just double Tay all day long. I mean, you've seen Davante in the early portion of his career just absolutely nuke these primetime slates. So I like Davante, if not now, when gets to take on this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which the way to attack the Steelers defense is not running at TJ Watt. It is getting the ball in the air, getting your all-pro, your perennial all-pro wide receiver the ball, let him get it in space, let him go deep. Devontae can do a little bit of it all. So Devontae is far and away my number one captain that I'll be rostering. The other I think you can play Josh Jacobs. We do know he's going to be on the field, for 85-90% of the snaps. I mean, but look at his rushing statistics last week. And what that tells me is that this offensive line just can't run block. I'll be lower on Josh Jacobs than the field. The other Raider that I would play would be Jimmy Garoppolo. We talked about it last week with Mac Jones, is when you have a non-rushing quarterback, you need to stack him with multiple people, multiple pass catchers to get to the top of the leaderboard, and that's what we want to do. So I would play Jimmy Garoppolo, but you're going to have him with two pass catchers, in my opinion, if not three. And then the number one Steeler that I would have, and I'll let you talk about him, but George Pickens, I think you got to have some interest in George Pickens, so take that away. But he would be my favorite Steeler in the captain spot.
Yeah, I like George Pickens. I just like his price point, right? 13.8. You put him up there. You can even do those 2-4 builds, right? Where you have George Pickens, you can throw Kenny Pickett, right? Because he's going to be slinging the ball. We assume here, I think it's going to be a lot of passing. Just because, again, Najee Harris on the ground, I don't believe in him as a very good running back overall. Jaylen Warren gave him a little bit of life on Monday night there watching that game. So we'll touch on that. But I just think you could throw George Pickens up there. We saw Monday, right? When they were moving the ball, it was all Pickens, right? Target monster, George Pickens there. Looking at his target shares, I mean, he had in first game 7 targets, last game 10 targets. He went 4 for 127 last week and a touchdown. I think he's an incredible play at 13.8 in the captain spot. You throw him up there, throw Kenny Pickett down in the flex, run it back with 4 Raiders. You could even do a 3-3, throw in Jaylen Warren there and do like a 3-3 because I think it's more of a low scoring game. So if he gets you 6 catches for 70 yards, doesn't even find the box, there's probably a pretty good chance if this game is like a 13-10 game, 14-10, somewhere in there, 17-10, 17-14, something like that, where I'm thinking where there's limited scoring, limited touchdowns. George Pickens could be that guy that you just need up there, run it back. It allows you to have a little bit more salary where you could play a Devontae, you could play a Jimmy G, you could play a Jacoby Myers. You could play that, just rack up all the points and just kind of build a balanced style build where it's not high-low is the reason I like George Pickens quite a bit up at the top there. Davante Adams, I'm with you. It's hard to ignore. I mean, he's just a target monster freak on this. Even in week 1, he still had 9 targets when Jacoby played and scored those 2 touchdowns. He went 6 for 66, still scored 13 fantasy points. He finds that box, he's over 20 again. So that's just a little bit of touchdown variance there, right? Jacoby found the box twice. I do like Jacoby Myers as well. He's 12.9. It gives you a little bit more salary to save at that captain position. So you could go like a Jacoby Myers up at the captain, Josh Jacobs and Jimmy G in the flex, fade a Davante Adams. And hopefully that it's just Jacoby Myers in week 1, right? Where he caught those two tutties, 29 DraftKings points. He still had 10 targets in week 1, right? 9 catches, 81 yards. So I still think Jacoby Myers is a good play, especially with Davante there, because look at what we saw in week 1, Ham, which you named it, right? Last week, we saw Davante was the guy, right? Who are you scared of guys like Hunter Renfrow? I'm not scared of Hunter Renfrow, I'll tell you that. So when you have Jacoby Myers, who had a great week 1, had 9 targets, ton of catches there, 2 touchdowns, you can't just focalize on Davante Adams because then you have Josh Jacobs in the backfield as well, right? So I do like he's going to be in there. I think they both help complement each other. You can argue their ceilings aren't as high with both of them on the field here, but I still think that's viable. So captain pool for me. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your ceiling point. I mean, we saw, like you said, in week 1. I mean, they both had 17 targets. They had 17 targets combined in week 1. So if Davante gets one of those touchdowns and Jacoby has his 2. Then, I don't know about ceiling, but they're both getting up there in the 20s, which we know at the captain, we want to get, 20 plus more times than not, which will obviously vault us into the 30-point range for our captain. So I do think their ceiling would potentially be there, if they both played and they both got those kind of targets. But I don't know if that's going to be that kind of game script with them throwing it that much.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm a little bit different than you two in terms of Jimmy G captain. I really wouldn't put Jimmy G in the captain spot. He just doesn't throw enough. Looking at his first two games, right? Denver, Buffalo, kind of two style games where we think this game is going to play similar, right? Denver, pretty solid defense. That game was 17-6. Jimmy G only threw 26 pass attempts. Game against Buffalo, right? They got waxed and they were obviously losing much of that game. He only threw 24 attempts, right? So Vegas just doesn't like to air it out. Whereas if you look at Kenny Pickett, San Fran, they got waxed in that first game, 46 attempts, makes sense. Second game in Cleveland there, it was kind of back and forth. Obviously, the defense helped him out there a little bit, but he still had 30 attempts. So I think I would just rather have Kenny Pickett for the salary savings in the captain spot than Jimmy G personally. I would pair Kenny Pickett with Pickens. You could throw in Jalen Warren, Pat Freiermuth, some of these other guys down here, these cheaper receivers, Calvin Austin, big play guys. Is where I'm at. So my captain pool is pretty condensed. It's Devontae Adams, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens. I think Jacoby Myers makes some sense. And then my fifth one that I might have a little interest in is either Jalen Warren or Pat Freiermuth. I'm a sucker for those tight end captain positions. Shipped $57,000 last year with captain tight end position. And it just helps to my point, right? In a game like this, you want the points, right? I think it's going to be low scoring. I don't think either of these teams breaks 20 points. So I just want the scoring. You can build a balanced lineup, get all those guys at the top with still some upside in the captain position. So that's always why I do like throwing a Pat Freiermuth up in the captain spot or a tight end that definitely has some ceiling. So
let me real quick. Let me ask you about Josh Jacobs. I didn't hear you mention him. I mean, you and I are typically will only play a handful of lineups and not MME, but do you have any interest in say 3 to 5 teams of having any Josh Jacobs captain, or is that more of a, you get to him in 20 or 150? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, you can always have Josh Jacobs. I just think if I'm spending up at the captain spot up there, I'd rather have a receiver like Devontae or Jacoby personally. I just don't really like to run against these Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Like, I mean, you got Mr. Watt on there on the other end. They're pretty good. Josh Jacobs, 9 points against Denver. Buffalo, he had 10 points. He just hasn't looked the greatest, and that offensive line is just pretty weak. Does he have upside out of the backfield? Absolutely. 3 targets week 1, 5 targets last week, had 51 receiving yards last week, but -2 rushing yards. So I think he could go. I mean, he could go 50 and 50, right? 50 on the ground, 50 through the air, get you a decent enough score there, and that might be enough in a game like this. So you could definitely have interest in, but I'm expecting him right now. He's projected to be the second highest owned captain. So I think I'm just going to be under on him. He's very similar owned right now to Devontae Adams as it sits right now in terms of ownership in the captain. So I think I would much rather just side with Devontae Adams and then go with some of those other upside guys personally is how I'm approaching it.
Got it.
Go ahead and round out your captain pool, talk through some flex plays real quick, and then talk through some game theory and get on out of here.
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to captain, I'm still going to go with Devontae. Would be my number one captain. And now that you say that and kind of looking deeper at Jimmy, yeah, he just doesn't throw it enough. And you're right. Kenny Pickett wheeling and dealing around there, slinging it, 30 times last game. But when you think about it, and you said it too, I mean, the Steelers scored 2 defensive touchdowns. So that takes Pickett off the field for a variety of plays. They were down a majority of that game. And so they would have come out slinging that ball around because I think he had, 221 yards passing, late third, early fourth quarter. And then I think he ended up with that because he never passed it again. This offensive line for the Steelers, I was watching some stuff on X this week, some tape of some of the game, and it's just atrocious. And we wonder why Najee Harris has been so terrible. This offensive line is so terrible. So they're going to have Kenny Pickett throwing, and he is capable of getting rushing yards too. So I would be with you in leapfrogging Kenny Pickett ahead of Jimmy Garoppolo in the captain. So to round that out, let's go Devontae Adams 1, George Pickens 2, and then Kenny Pickett would be my third highest owned captain.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown. Yeah, I'd be George Pickens number 1, Devontae Adams 2, and then my third would probably be either Kenny Pickett or or one of Jalen Warren, Pat Freiermuth, one of those Steelers captains up there, because I think overall the Steelers captains just go under-owned in this game here tonight, with Vegas being at home, favored, all that thing. But, hey, the Steelers just got out with a win there in Cleveland in that ugly game on Monday. So who's to say they can't go in here and take out these Raiders as well? So let's talk some flex plays. Any other interesting? Obviously, we're going to have the same kind of interest up at the top in terms of the captains that we had interest in the flex. Do want to note the Steelers defense all the way up to 5,600 after that monster performance on Monday. That's very, very expensive for defense. I'm personally been under on defenses. I got waxed the first couple primetime slates when defenses went crazy. The Raiders defense at 4K, they are favored. Kenny Pickett puts the ball in the air a little bit, so you got to have some interest in there. I mean, 4K is a better price point, but still, I think these defenses are priced up to a point where I don't have any interest when the defenses are both priced over the kickers here. I mean, Chris Boswell, we think this game's going to play under. I think this game's going to be lower scoring. I have interest in both these kickers. Both these kickers can get the job done. We just saw Chris Boswell Monday night, obviously, had 2 field goals, right? 12 DraftKings points there. Daniel Carlson has 12, 14-point ceiling upside like we've seen multiple times last year. Pretty big leg there. So 3,600 and 3,400, that's one thing that stands out to me for sure, is those 2 kickers are very underpriced, in my opinion, when both the defenses in this game are priced over them. I mean, you're talking the Steelers defense is $2,000 more than Chris Boswell. I'll take my chances any day of the week there on fading that Steelers defense and just playing Boswell there. So I like that. Some cheapies down here. I mean, you got Zamir White, Austin Hooper, DeAndre Carter. Really, I really don't think this is a slate to dumpster dive with any of these guys down here. I really don't like doing that anyway. So I think personally, I'm going to try and stay those kickers and above. Really don't want to mess with the Hunter Renfrows, the Austin Hoopers, the Zamir Whites, Trey Tuckers, any of those guys. Hooper would probably be my favorite just there because we know what he can do in terms of upside right there at the tight end position. So hitting some of these flex plays, any interest, what's standing out to you in the flex?
Yeah, just off the top, I'll piggyback off of Austin Hooper because he's one that I have my eye on. And the reason is he is in a great matchup against these Steelers linebackers. Austin Hooper is a possession type of guy. Obviously, point per reception. We want to rack up receptions to get us points. You know, we get down there in the red zone, they're going to focus on Jacoby. They're going to focus on Devontae. And Austin Hooper, he's proven it over the last 5 years of his career. He's very reliable in the red zone. So I really like Austin Hooper tonight. He's been playing roughly 45% of the snaps, had 2 targets last week. But with this matchup at that price, it's a tough click. And we're like most other people. When you see Austin Hooper's name, you grimace and you're like, I don't want to play that guy. But I think he's viable tonight. I think if you have Devontae in the captain spot, you're going to have to get down there and dumpster dive a little bit. So I'm okay with Austin Hooper. And then if you really wanted to load up this game, I actually wouldn't mind Michael Mayer, rookie tight end out of Notre Dame. A lot of upside, was getting drafted in best ball mainly. But for $200, I mean, we saw what Ronnie Bell did the other night. And I know that's a little bit different that Ronnie Bell caught a touchdown, but Michael Mayer's been playing 40% of the snaps as well, which is going to outpace Ronnie Bell. And I know Ayuk was out, so he was up a little bit, but he didn't even play that much the other night, and he was still optimal. It's just about getting in the box at that price when you want to play those high-end guys. So I don't mind either one of those tight ends. I wouldn't play both, just play one of them. You said it. I like Daniel Carlson in this matchup. He does have that 14 to 18 point upside that you're going to need. Kick a 50-yarder right before halftime. Stall out in the red zone, kick 2 40-yard field goals, and boom, you're already at 13 right there. So I don't mind Daniel Carlson. And then my favorite Pittsburgh Steeler that I like in the flex will be Jalen Warren. Yeah, you said it earlier. 6 targets in both games. He just looks so much more electric. And we just talked about it's tough to run for these Steelers. Their offensive line is pretty atrocious. So they're going to have to get these little swing passes, dump offs, and screens to Jalen Warren. And he's just more explosive than Najee Harris. So love Jalen Warren. And the last one that I want to touch off on, if you need to get down here, 2 would be Allen Robinson. that they didn't target him last game too much, 3 targets, but the first game against San Fran, and once again, we know they were down 8 targets. So if they get into grain script where Devontae catches 2 touchdowns early, they're going to be looking to feed Allen Robinson out of the slot. Once again, racking up those catches. PPR, we want to get that. So I have some interest in Allen Robinson. And then on the Raiders side, I mean, Josh Jacobs, he'll be tough to fit in there, but obviously it's not the craziest play. That's nothing that you don't already know, is that Josh Jacobs is a great play, but it's just a matter, can we fit him? Can he be the optimal guy to get us up to the top of the leaderboard? And go ahead, and then I can come back with some players that I'll be fading outright on this slate, Nate.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up Michael Mayer just off the top there. He played 40% of the snaps last week, 49% of the snaps. So it's basically a 60-40, 50-50 split almost it was in week 1 between him and Austin Hooper. I'm trying to pull up routes when we run there, but we know what Michael Mayer was in college, right? I remember this guy at Notre Dame just dusting kids. He's tons of talent, and he's just $200, right? Has a projection sitting right around 3 points right now. So at $200, you want to talk about Devontae Adams, captain, being able to play Pickens, Josh Jacobs, Jimmy G, those guys. You could throw him in there. You can pretty much do whatever you want on this slate. He would be my favorite punt option down here just because he's got the upside. And we know what Austin Hooper is, right? They drafted Michael for a reason right here. And just to show you that the rookie's almost out-snapping this guy in week 2 already. He played 16 snaps last week. Austin Hooper played 17. So I do think he's a great play there. I would probably group those 2 away from each other, to be honest with you, Austin Hooper and Michael Mayer, just because they're both cheap, right? Salary's not a huge concern on this slate. Personally, you don't have the Stephon Diggs, the Josh Allens, those guys up at the tops, the Justin Jeffersons, right, where you need a ton of salary. Obviously, we got Devontae Adams up there, but I just wouldn't play those 2 both together. They're kind of splitting each other. Could they both get there? Yeah, they could. But that's personally something that I would look at doing. Did want to mention that real quick. And then, like I said, I love the kickers in this game, both of them. Calvin Austin, I think I would prefer over Allen Robinson. Calvin Austin, just kind of that big play guy, right? Yeah, we've seen it with Pickens, but Calvin Austin, I think makes some sense too there. Really the home run guy. Doesn't take much for him to get there, so I do like them. And then I'm with you and Jaylen Warren. The one note, Jaylen Warren versus Najee Harris. Najee Harris is definitely going to be lower owned because everyone's seeing the same thing we are, right? Jaylen Warren just came off Monday, just had a better, more explosive. I think he's the better running back overall. Eventually, by the end of the season, I think he might even outtake Najee in terms of snaps, in terms of starting. So I do like Jaylen Warren there, but everyone's seeing the same thing that we see there, how much. So you can always make the case to overspend for a guy like Najee Harris at 8.8 there at lower ownership. And in a game like this, if Najee Harris, George Pickens, right, bomb to George Pickens, pass interference, something like that, down at the 1, guess who's coming in? It's going to be Mr. Najee there to punch it in. And he does that once or twice in a game that's 17-10 or 17-14, and the 2 touchdowns are from Najee Harris. There's a good chance that you need him on your lineup, and not even just in your lineup on the captain spot. So you can always make a case for these running backs that are pretty dusty overall, pretty trash. But there's always the pass interference. There's always the zebras on the field there that can blow the whistle and throw the flag there and let these guys luck box into a touchdown or 2. So I always got to mention that because he will be lower owned in my opinion than Jaylen Warren with the price there. Any additional thoughts there at the flex or roster construction?
Yeah, I was just thinking, some of the players that I'm going to be underweight on. I'm still going to be underweight on Najee, and I'm going to make him prove it to me that he can do it. I'm actually a little different than you when it comes to Freiermuth. I mean, I know the name is there, but 1 target last game, that's a no for me. So I'm going to be out on Freiermuth as well. Certainly understand it that he's a security blanket. Maybe that was just a one-off, but with that being said, he only had 4 targets in game 1. I think he got hurt. I don't know if he left the game after he scored the TD, but he only had 4 targets, then 1 target last week. So I'm out on him. And then you alluded to it earlier. I mean, Hunter Renfrow, I mean, where has this guy been all season? I guess you could make the case that he's due. 1 target in 2 games. Jimmy G is just obviously not looking his way. And why would you when you have Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Jacoby Myers from the first game? So those would be the three that I'm lower on the field, if not completely fading. I won't MME. I'll do somewhere between 5 and 15 teams, but I may have them in 1 or 2, but no more than that. I'd be fading those three outside of maybe 1 or 2 teams.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown. I'm with you there. Just let me pull this up real quick. Hold on.
Hey, just one other thing is I think this game plays similar to their Week 17 game last year in Pittsburgh. It was I don't know if you guys remember, but it was a snowstorm almost. It was bad weather. Derek Carr was there, and they were trying to preserve Mike Tomlin, never finishing below 500. I think this game plays similar to that, just with how methodical both of these teams want to play. Nate said it, 17-14, 2017 type of game. Scoring's going to be lower, we anticipate. That's the game flow that we're predicting. So kickers, defenses are going to be more likely to be in the optimal, in my opinion, than these shootouts, than these Christian McCaffrey-esque type performances, Debo type performances that we saw on Thursday. I think it's going to be more slow-paced, more methodical, lower scoring affair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you there. I do have a little bit more interest in Pat Freiermuth. Just the tight ends have done well against these Raiders in the first 2 games here, averaging 7.5 catches per game in each of those. So I do think that makes some sense, right? Dawson Knox, Kincaid had decent games last week in Buffalo there, and Denver, same thing in that game. So I do think Pat Freiermuth, they need to get this guy involved. He was a huge piece of their offense last year. Both people are everyone's kind of seeing the same thing, right? Game log hunting, 4 targets in week 1, only 1 target on Monday night there. So I do have a little bit more interest in Pat Freiermuth than you do. I just always like him. I always like tight ends, and him priced $200 below Jaylen Warren. I think people just go right to Jaylen Warren after that, seeing that Monday night. So that's kind of where we are. In terms of roster construction, I'm always a 2-4 or 4-2 kind of guy. 3-3s, find the mix as well. I don't really think this is a 5-1 onslaught type game. You can always make a case to it. Personally, I'm not doing it there. Any additional thoughts there in terms of the onslaught or any of that?
Yeah, I was building some teams before the show, and I found myself doing a lot of 3-3s, right? Shocker there. That's what most people are probably going to do. What I think I'm going to do, just to get a little bit different, is I will have some 3-3s, but I will also have some 2-4s, meaning when I have Devontae and the captain, I'll have one other Raider. Then I'll have the Steelers playing catch up. So I'll have Kenny Pickett and his pass catchers trying to catch up to Devontae and either the kicker, Jimmy G, or whoever the case may be, Mayer, Hooper, somebody like that. But I think a 2-4 makes sense tonight. You could even go 2-4 on the Steelers side if you wanted to go the Pickens-Pickett route or Pickett-Pickens route, and then 4 Raiders catching up on the back end. So I'm going to look hard at that, a 2-4 or a 3-3 tonight for this slate.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown. I was just looking at hold on, let me just look at tight ends real quick. I want to just see routes run for Mayer. Yeah, so Michael Mayer's only ran 9 routes in the first 2 games here compared to Austin Hooper's 27. So one note, but that's why Mayer's also $200, not $2,400. So just one note there. I think makes some sense there. But yeah, no, I'm with you. 2-4, 4-2 builds. I really like those two. I really like the build where it goes to the 2-4, where it goes a captain and 1 in the flex, and then 4 from the other team. Like the underdog and like the Pickens Pickett thing, right? The pick little Pickens up top, Pickett down in the flex, right? Hey, we just saw it Monday night when they were trying to come back and score on those Cleveland Browns there. There was a lot of Pickens through the air there, and he racks up those catches, finds the box. Pickett gets the yards, does enough to be optimal flex, and you got those 4 Raiders running it back, whether it's Josh Jacobs, Adams, Jimmy G, Carlson, any of those guys. So that's kind of my favorite build there. Any additional thoughts before we get on out of here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we beat this pretty good. We think it's going to be a lower scoring game, methodical game, a lot of running unsuccessfully, a lot of dinking and dunking down the field. And then I think there's going to be a lot of stalling out going on, between the 20s, and that equates to kickers. So I think kickers are very I like kickers, and you said it too. The defense, there's too much kickers more than the defenses. I wouldn't be shocked to see something like both kickers in the flex, and then those higher price guys, the Devontaes, the Pickens, the Pickett's in the captain mode take this down. But should be a good slate. I mean, like I said, $500,000 up top. Like, subscribe, leave the score in the comments below. We appreciate that. We do go back and look at that once the game's over to see where the scores were.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Leave the comments in the drop a like, drop a subscribe button on the channel here. Helps us a ton, keeps these shows coming for you. And Hoop, Tambo, and Title will be back tomorrow morning. Well, actually this morning, now that you're listening to this is pre-recorded. But again, all of our main NFL Sunday morning, Monday night, Thursday night breakdowns are on the Mayo Media Network. Head over to that. You'll check those guys out. They go live for our main 3 shows. Everything else right here on this channel. But that's going to do it. Hopefully you guys' Sunday main slate is going well by the time you listen to this video. It's Saturday here. We're going to get on out of here, watch some college football, enjoy the day, jump into the MLB streets here, build some NFL teams. But we appreciate everyone who watched this. Again, drop those comments in the chat. And if you do guess the right score, we'll give you a free month to SHIPIT Nation over here. But for how much? I'm Nades. We'll catch you guys next time. Good luck tonight. Let's ship it.